Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. And yes, it's been quite a while since I've been here in From the Depths and posted anything to YouTube. So basically, without going too much details, been a bit of a chaotic, crappy year for me. Work-wise, family, caring for people, equipment, you name it. It sort of gave me problems this year. Anyway, I'm here. Got a new microphone, so this is a bit of a test of the new condenser, one of those fancy sort of YouTube-y type of microphones rather than using a headset. So please let me know how the audio is. Hopefully it will come through okay. But okay, this is just I'm back into From the Depths because despite being away, one thing I like doing is building stuff and blowing stuff up. So among From the Depths, I've been doing some work. I have also been playing in Arm 3 and that new Starbase program. But From the Depths is still somewhere I like to come back to build ships and make things go boom. So what have I got and what have I planned? Well, so I'm going to start off slowly. Hopefully get one or two videos out going back into the campaign that was running. So first of all, we'll look at the campaign. So these are some of the ships. I've got my little shipyard for the Kaiser Kriegsmarine. Yes, I've got it in pause mode at the moment because there is so many blocks here and smoke and everything. It will get lots of stutters if I was to look at this without it in pause mode, but I'm sure that will be fine. Now, some of these ships you've already seen are freighter and an armed version of the freighter, and then we've got our U-boats, U-19 and an upper gunned which was used. These are sort of semi-historical based. It's not reproductions. These are just based upon a historical item, but then made more in-game, shall we say. So this was used as a supply U-boat, so it was historically correct. There is another one I want to make, a later version which I don't think was ever made, but basically it had 4 single 6-inch guns on the deck, 150mm guns. That seems, it was very big, as you can imagine, and it was designed to be used as like a cruiser. But they weren't turreted, they were open, slightly different design to the Surcouf or some of the other designs that were in there, but it's a potential big submarine that could be used and built. Could be interesting, so that's one of my plans. We've got the ongoing Torpedo Boat. This was the early one we built, and then I've got this, this is the upgraded version, again, semi-designed on historical items. We've got a later one, and these are all really designed against the deep water guard, with some defense to the Onyx Watch. Then we went into the cruisers. This was the Abysso Vact, I think it was, yes, which was basically a light cruiser. These were really originally a colonial ship for going places and for the German Empire. And then we go on to here. This is the Gazelle class, which was an upgunned, as you can see, cruisers. And I would like to start looking at some of the other light cruisers as we go up, which is like, I'm trying to remember some of them now. Yeah, basically we got a number more guns. They are similar, they're not much different actually until you started going into the armoured cruisers. So even like the Scharnhorst was a light cruiser at the time, very similar to this. It just had a slightly different gun arrangements. One of the arrangements was slightly bigger single guns on the front and rear with the small guns on the side, but it was similar. So I don't know if it's actually worth going through all that process of those if they're going to be effectively very similar. Then we've got our first battleship I want to bring into the battle against the Deepwater Guard, and this is the Odin, the BSE. So the SMS Odin and its sister ships were coastal battleships. they had a rather unusual design with the single gun turrets at the front and one on the rear, but they were designed really just to stay in the coast and just deter, especially when the canal was opened, the Kiel Canal. It was designed to defend the entrances to the Kiel Canal and just the coastal areas of Germany. These was not part of the high seas fleet, but this is good enough. Basically quite tanky, quite well armoured. The guns are okay. Can't remember what they were now. Don't think I can bring it up in this mode, so I think they were about a 9 or 10 inch gun, which I brought over. We'll look at these in a minute, but we've still got the aircraft. So we've got the Zeppelin. This is an armoured version of the Zeppelin. It's more helicopter than just relying on hydrogen, because this one has metal armour. Rather than being alloy, there is metal here, and I am going to upgrade it a bit, put some more metal here. It's also got cram bomb chutes and a couple of reasonable guns on it, which I need to adjust so they can shoot straight down, but otherwise that's quite interesting. Then we had the aircraft. Now the aircraft were, to be honest, not very successful so far against the Deepwater Guard. They've been taken out rather quickly, either by missiles or APS guns. So far against anything except the simple ones, the aircraft haven't been effective, and I want to talk about and ask a question about that later. But the next ships on the queue, potentially, if these can't handle the Deepwater Guard or going into the Onyx Watch, we've got this is the S113. So again, this was based upon a torpedo boat, but it's got more the lines of a classic destroyer, and this was the start, I think, of a German, at least, of this move from the torpedo boat to the destroyer and going into the Z1 Zestorer and other, and defining it separately from the Schnell boats and their torpedo boats. So this actually in World War One, as reparations, was given to France, who just basically used it as a straight up destroyer. So it's got the typical much larger main guns, multiple of them, on this case 4 torpedoes, dual torpedoes in this particular case, a few secondaries, not many. It's mainly about the torpedoes and the main guns. So that's the destroyer. Then we've got the armoured cruiser here, which was the Prince Adalbert, which I think I did a build video of, which will be interesting. There's a few things I would change on this now in hindsight, but it'll be good enough against Deepwater Guard and maybe the Onyx Watch. It might be a little underarm for them, but we'll have to see. It might be an early sort of defender against that. And then we've got our first battleship here, which is the Kaiser Friedrich, which is, again, more based upon the high seas fleet when they was trying to make something which was more seaworthy against the Royal Navy. And again, this is aimed at late game Deepwater Guard and Onyx Watch. And then at the next stage in the campaign, we'll be pushing the World War One ships further into the battle cruisers and the bigger battleships, going up into the Flinger, Mackensen, and then into some of the actual true battleships, and also potentially looking at the cruisers, because there was a point where it changed from being armoured cruisers to just having battle cruisers and then your light cruisers, such as the Scharnhorst, Emden, and a few others. Maybe look at doing some of those and the battle cruisers with this true battleships, and see if we can finish off the Onyx Watch with those. And then once it starts getting into the next stage, which would be really you're looking up against the Lightning Hoods and the white flares. The white flares are a problem campaign as such. I think they've got their own unique defences, so maybe we should look at start getting away from the World War One ships. So let me just bring up my other shipyard to show some of the other ships I'm thinking of using against white flares and lightning hoods. We're now on the what I'm to call the Kaiser Kriegsmarine and Deutsche Marine sort of vessels. And these are some that I've been working on for future use against, as I say, the Lightning Hoods, Onyx Watch, white flares. Based upon some of the Kriegsmarine and also then going into future ones. But going back, first of all, we got the Merchant, which is the same one, because to be honest, they used World War One merchants all the way through World War Two, because there was no point in buying them by making new ones. And then we have the Z1 Zestora. Let me just check on the thing. Yeah, Zestora Z1. So this is like a modern destroyer, lightly armed, main guns, lots of AA, secondaries on here, as is typical. Although reality is that in the campaign, once you're past the deep water guard, flyers are just great big flying battleships in many cases, and you don't need all of this AA. But anyway, I'm trying to keep to something historical. We'll look at these ones over there in a bit. And then I haven't really built any cruisers, and I do want to do like a Admiral Hipper and those sort of ships, and taking the view of, well, what if Plan Z was actually brought into fruition with the M-class cruisers and the the pocket battleships, the Duograf Spey, Deutschland class, etc. Now, the biggest ship I've done at the moment for the Germans, this is the Scharnhorst. So this is a 500,000 materials. This is one of the biggest ships I've made for them for a while. It's quite well armed. It's got the 11-inch guns. I think they were about 280 mil roughly. Secondaries. It's tried to keep. It's just about filled up. We've got room which would have been used up here for the aircraft, and I'm thinking maybe putting something else there. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it's quite well armoured. There is some open areas. It is a mixed diesel steam turbine hybrid. Maybe if you want, I'll go through the the system once we bring it in to the game, etc. And I've also been working on the Luftwaffe. But there is a point how to use the Luftwaffe if you were to make something which is sort of based on history. A lot of these are pretty damn useless, but they do work against the lower end ships. But you get an APS gun and they just get wiped out. But well, let's not worry about that. So you've got everything from this was actually a Viking group Dornier, which was used for anti-shipping strikes in the Mediterranean and other areas, and it was the first use of the Fritz. I would say the first. I think they were actually used on HE-111s later on, but the Viking group were known for their anti-ship. They started on Dornier 17, so I kept the Dornier 17, and then they moved on to HE-11s and Ju-88s, and this is a HE-11-ish with just lots of bombs. Then you've got your good old Ju-87, and I also thought, well, what about a navalized version? Because if the if they had brought out the KMS Zeppelin, they would have used a navalized version of the Ju-87, effectively having a torpedo version and a dive bomber version of the Ju-87, well, as a possibility. Let's see, we got my trial at an ME-110, dual engine, lots of guns on the front, basically. It sort of works. It's propellers look a little mismatched there, but anyway, we can sort that out later. Yeah, it sort of works. It's a heavy front end fighter, double engined. It's actually got a little bit of survivability. Then you've got the ME109, and again, they were going to make a navalized version of this to go on the Zeppelin. So I made one with the cannons cannons and machine guns in the wings, and some cannons shooting through the propeller. Again, it's getting up to the speed maximum for prop planes. I think it's about 66 or somewhere around that. 70 meters a second. Whereas most of the other previous ones are in the 50s, but we're getting close. Then you had the Dornier 355, which was basically a push and pull double-engined Dornier to try and make a fast propeller plane. And I think it became just about the fastest wartime aircraft. I've tried to do that. Let's see, where's it got to? 76. So it got a little bit faster than the 109. Just because I felt like making it. Then we get into the jets. Now, obviously, life with the Luftwaffe wouldn't be the same without a 262. So, yeah, using the jets, some simple little small jets. It does actually quite well. It does get up to 104, and I've made some versions which get a little bit faster and have slightly different weapon loadouts. Everything from the Orkan, which was using a sort of guided missiles. Rockets, well, it was actually unguided rockets, and they even had a system where they were looking at actually the first air-to-air guided rockets, things like that. There's also a Jabbo, a bomber version, just to try it out, see how that will work. And then obviously, I wouldn't say obviously, but then we have the Arado 234, basically fairly fast. 99, yeah, so much faster, and a couple of nice large bombs on it, just to take out ships. Does quite well. Again, a little bit paper thin on the armors on these. If they do get hit, they get taken out. So my thoughts is a what if campaign with all these ships, and we got some other what if the wonder weapons, the Wunderwaffe, came to fruition. Now, there's lots of wonder weapons that people don't know about, just never got into production. The missile and rocketry of the Germans started in the 1930s. I mean, they were flying various turbojets and missiles in the mid to late 30s. So what if they improved enough during the war, or the war didn't happen and, you got invaded by aliens and the Germans came in and tried to take out all the aliens. Something like that, anyway. So you've got the V1 flying bombs and the good old V2s. These do sort of work. They're a little bit hit or miss, but then again, the real weapons were a bit hit and miss anyway, sometimes. But they're fun to launch at people. And I was thinking, well, what if I put a V1 rocket launcher on the back of the Scharnhorst? Yeah, that could be interesting for those long-range engagements where you really must take them out before they get close. Could be interesting. Anyway, that's the idea. Then we were going into the more modern ships. So this is sort of maybe take this up. I'd like to build a bigger battleship. Obviously, you've got the Scharnhorst Torpists, and then you're getting into the H classes where they're massive 20-inch guns, and people like that, and maybe getting into ludicrous mode, what ifs, with a lot of the weaponry, combining some missiles. And we've got some modern versions of ships here, which are off the Kriegsmarine, getting into the modern Deutsche Marine, modern German Navy. So the S61, which is a small modern corvette with 70, fairly fast-burning guns. It had Exocet missiles and an anti-missile systems on the back on later versions. There was a few versions of this gone through. There was the Albatross, the Gepard, and a few others. I can't remember all the names. We'll go through them when I bring them in. Does okay against some of the smaller Lightning hoods, etc. We have here the Colne class destroyer or frigate. From memory, yep, it was the first ones that were no longer based on World War II ships. A lot of the early ships from the German Navy were basically re-engineered American ships, and the Colne class World War II ships. And the Colne class was a ship that was built for the German Navy. And I don't think it was the first one. I think it was part of a class for somewhere else. But the point is, it was modernised. So we've got some modern guns. We have some torpedoes. We've got some missiles, but they were limited. This was mainly for anti-submarine warfare, which we don't have many submarines in this game, more's the pity. With some good anti-air capability as well. So it was an okay ship. And then we've got a much more modern Lutjen, which was named after, well, Lutjen, Captain Lutjens, I guess. Anyway, Admiral Lutjens. A modern destroyer, quite a good gun on the front. We have the torpedoes, we have anti-missile systems, and we have on the back which was based upon, anti-air system. I've made it a 4-barrel, but was based on the Tartar. I think it was the Tartar, or it may have been the other one. American missile systems. So it does quite well, actually. It's not too bad. It also has an anti-submarine deploy system and also harpoon missiles, or Exocets, depending on how you want to do it. But it's got some long-range vertical launch missiles, which are sort of mimicking the use of harpoons in some of the ship. And it's a more modern sort of design. Anyway, these would be for... I'd like to push this design, further into more modern German frigates that are coming out, and look at the missile systems against them. But that's a later game. It's just, this is what I've been playing with, shall we say, whilst just when I had spare time but not enough time to do videos. Questions then. 2 things I'd like to do. Carry on the campaign with the early ships. Question 1, carriers. Are carriers worth it in this game? How to use them? Should they be big ships which have capacity for these aircraft, or spawn lots of them and just be a moving supply dump? How do you use carriers in the game? Do you even bother with them? I've tried multiple systems in the campaign, and nothing's been really satisfactory. Generally, they end up being a great big damage pinata for the enemy, and I can't actually spawn in enough aircraft to make it effective, because aircraft are too squishy. Until you get it, if you look at the Steel Striders and other in-game that have some very good jets, they're really massive, and they're pretty expensive metal jets. They're not in any way like modern, fast, fairly flimsy. There have to be flying tanks, for want of a better word. So that's number 1. Number 2, an adventure mode. I've never done adventure mode, and I was thinking that maybe take the Kriegsmarine, some of these ships, into like build up a Kriegsmarine in adventure mode, starting with like a Schnellboat type system and build up. Now, I have also one question for adventure mode for those that have done it. Do fleets work in adventure mode? And I've got 2 types of fleets I'm thinking of here. When I say fleet, I mean multiple ships. One is ships which are part of the same fleet. So when you go through into the next zone, do you have problems? The other side is the carrier style, where you have one mothership and the other ships use the drone deployer to actually make a drone of your mothership. Does that work in the adventure mode? But I would like to maybe do let's say a campaign and an adventure mode video each week, with maybe one other on builds, whatever ship I need to build for the next video to help me through adventure mode or campaign mode. Your thoughts? Anyway, this has been just a little video to get me back into the flow, do some editing, and hopefully just start me off again, producing some more From the Depths content, because I still think this is a great game. I've tried the other games that are available on building, and I like the From the Depths building. Sometimes I wish it was more complex, and then after going through other games I realise I actually like the simplicity of the From the Depths building system. We don't need having had to go at Starbase, where the complexity of that, it's not like I can build one of these ships in a couple of hours. If I had that level of complexity here, it would mostly be taking me a month to build me one of these ships, especially something like this. This would be a multi-month affair. So that having this simplicity of blocks allows for these big ships to be built without being overly complex, which I think would push away new players. Anyway, that's another thought for another day. Anyway, want more content? Please let me know. Leave any comments down below in the comments as always, and hopefully I will see you in another video within a few days, just as I start getting back into the campaign possibly. So anyway, until next time, keep playing the game and have fun.